Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing, especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past.
Hey all, Franco Musso here. Yes, I hacked your podcast feed. I held Jon and Heather hostage, but don't worry. I got my wires crossed and I'm actually paying them a small ransom in the form of sponsorship. Anyway, big announcement. I'm finally releasing my online Power Pages course. This has been 5+ years in the making. It's tried and tested on citizen devs and portal makers all around the world. It's a course I wish existed when I was getting started. It's practical, it's hands-on, and it's project-based, so you're not left wondering, how the f*** would this apply to the real world? I've built in battle-tested lessons I've learned from tens of successful portal projects across various industries, budgets, and geographies. And I've formulated the most efficient route from zero to heroic launch. The tools and techniques I've chosen to show you are all based on what has the most value to you, the learner, and to your customers, all in the most compressed timeline possible. Think 80-20, focusing on the techniques that punch above their weight and deliver the majority of results. You'll get video lessons, a repeatable framework, and some super helpful workbooks. I'll also throw in my decision flows. It's going to be the closest thing you can get to having an expert on hand or being able to peek over my shoulder while I work. Interested? Visit francomusso.com/power-pages-course and secure your spot today. Disclaimer, this course isn't for you if you prefer hours of slides, theory, and little to no action. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very, very special episode of Sprint Zero. And this is where our uncomfortable corner goes deep. And so I am your host, Heather Perriam, and my normal co-host is actually one of our panelists today. And so actually, I will just turn it over to our panelists, and I'll start with the wonderful Jon. Just a quick intro on who you are, and start.
Sure. So I am Jon Russell. I am, well, at least today I think I am. Jon Russell. I am a solution architect at Capgemini. I am a strong advocate for mental health. I was previously a lead of a mental health team, or mental health champions team at a previous employer. I'm qualified in mental health first aid. I've also got ADHD, which I bring up once or twice a minute, and the complexities around, or the intersection between generalized anxiety disorder and ADHD is a very interesting one. That's me. Thank you.
All right. How about Duncan? You want to go next? I'm just going by order on the screen, by the way.
Yes, that's fine. I was wondering what order we were going in. Yes. Hello, I'm Duncan Boyne. I am a Power BI consultant for a company called CPIO. I'm also the founder of both the Norfolk Power Platform User Group and East of England Power Platform Summit, which is where this panel first had its debut. I'm also the creator of this panel and invited people to it and led it, sort of. Not really. I am ADHD. Long-term diagnosis. I was diagnosed when I was 10. Both of those lovely ones. Apart from that, mental health has been a massive part of my life, all my life. Not always for the better, but it is what it is. I've also recently started medicating for ADHD for the first time in 20-something years. So, yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Duncan. And next on my screen is Charles.
Thanks, Heather. My name's Charles Sexton, or Charlie if you prefer. I don't mind either way. I'm a Power Platform solution architect for Capgemini as well, like Jon. And I'm not diagnosed with anything. I would say that I'm a very sensitive person and I consider myself to be very caring.
Love it. And then that leaves Stuart, last but definitely not least.
So I'm Stuart Baxter. I am a senior solution architect at Capgemini, based up in Scotland. I've known both Duncan and Jon and Charlie as well, actually, for quite a number of years now. Worked with Duncan through Scottish Power Platform User Group, where he came along to speak for us. And in return, he asked me to come down to Norwich and take part in this panel as well. So we're just kind of running this back after Norwich for a wider audience.
Awesome. And thank you so much. Yeah, so I guess A hostess without ADHD would have explained the reason for today's call at the very beginning, but I thought, why not? Let's do it after intros, which is a fancy way of saying I forgot. So we did. We went to the East of England Power Platform Conference in Norwich, and we had this panel that was where you guys really shared some very personal views and experiences on mental health, and it was so good, and we did so well. It was led by the wonderful Amy Hemingway, and she couldn't be with us today, but we thought let's do a special episode and revisit that panel and what those experiences were like. So I think the first thing I'd love to hear from you guys is what made you say yes to doing it? When you thought about this panel and first heard about it at East of England, what made you say, like, yeah, I'll be a part of that? Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
So I guess for me, it's a really important conversation. We want to build strong, high-performing teams, and in order to do that and in order to succeed, we need to be looking out for each other. And I guess the panel was a way of starting that conversation with more people around how we create safe, high-performing teams where people can be vulnerable and have a bad day and ask for help, rather than just technical. That's all great, and it does do great things for software, but looking out for each other is equally as important for me, I think.
Amazing. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I think kind of exactly what Stuart's just said, but also I think the more and more you get deeper into this, the more you realise actually what is fundamental and what is core to everything that we do is people and community. So I was reading a book recently, How to Talk Like Ted, and one of the questions on it was one of the questions right at the start is what makes your heart sing? And I kind of thought about that question quite a lot, because it's not exactly what is your passion. It's like a bit more than that. So I kind of gave it a bit more thought, and for me it is community, really. So when I first got into Power Platform, I was like 2019, and that was kind of towards the tail end of a really pretty bad mental health episode that had been going on for about 2 and a bit years, and I went to Microsoft Ignite at the Excel Centre in East London and saw people talking about tech, yes, but also people talking about like human interactions and how it's important to have that human side in technology as well. And I went from kind of watching people like Rory Neary on stage and Donna Sarkar, and there was Mike Hartley in the audience and a few other people, going from kind of like seeing them there and watching them talk for the very first time to them being like, you know, quite core friends of mine now, like you guys are. And I that's why I'm very very involved in Power Platform space, because it kind of pulled me out of a really pretty dark place.
Yeah.
And it was the enabler to this community, really, which, you know, I think is very special to me and others.
Amazing. You know how I feel about the community, but for once it's not about me, so I'm going to leave it over to you guys. But yeah, John, I think that's beautiful. Duncan, did you have something to add?
I was going to wait for Charles to go first and me go last, but I will go now. That's fine. The reason I participated in it is because I made it.
Yeah,
It's
that's a good reason.
It's not. Yeah. Why did I make it though? It's probably the question I'll answer now. Because I know that conversation doesn't happen enough in the workspace, especially around men. It's hard enough sharing how you're feeling and your mental well-being as a man, let alone doing it in the workspace. And the workspace that we work in, which is tech, which has, you can look up the statistics, I love a good statistics, I work on Power BI, is the it is the job field that has the highest number of people on the spectrum and people with neurodiversity. Like, that's for a reason, because of how our industry works, and yet it's not spoken about enough. So it was an opportunity to have some people that work in very different settings, although 3 of them do work in Capgemini. But it's all different experiences. We've all worked different places. We've all come from different backgrounds. We're all UK based, but we're literally all over the UK. And we've all grown up and experienced work in completely different ways. I'm lucky to have some really supportive people in my life that have really helped. There is a happy birthday banner behind me, which is Emily's birthday tomorrow. And anyone that came to Easter England will know who Emily is. Emily kind of ran the show behind the things, and there's a wonderful picture of her staring at us while we're doing our talk, which is on the site, which I absolutely love. And also, I've got a really good manager at the moment, and I've publicly spoken about her and how she will talk to me about mental health and how I'm doing. Like, how are you doing today? Do you want to be left alone? Like, do you want extra? Like, she goes above and beyond in so many ways, and that there are people that were in the audience that were nodding along to things, and like you could see, like they were either thinking about like, I've had that experience, like negatively or positively, or I need to take some of this away and talk to people about it in my workspace. I'm rambling on. I'm going to pass to Charles.
Well, I think I do want to actually comment on that, because I think I told you afterwards, Duncan, that you especially, and my husband, who gives me permission to say this publicly, by the way, because it's always important that you have people's permission to share diagnosis. My husband is autistic, and some of the reactions you showed during there, I was like, oh my gosh, I know what's going through his mind right now, because I've seen that. And so when we get out there and we do things, I do think people, not only does it resonate, but then people like me who maybe don't experience the same kind of emotions or feelings, I can start to understand how to recognize it in others, right? Which we'll get into later, but it's important to me as a leader. So, so I do think you guys really did connect with different people. Charles, I am talking over your bit. I promised I wouldn't do that, but here we are. So please share with us
It's
how
all good.
you participated.
Thank you. No, I'm happy to listen to all of you because I find it very interesting and it's good to hear all the different viewpoints. I guess from my position, so Duncan reached out to me and said, would I like to be a part of it? And I think that across society, we don't have enough of this kind of thing. And that's one of the big reasons why I'd want to be involved, is because we just need more help for people generally. And another thing that was touched on at the session as well is to do with like parenting. Most of us have parents who haven't guided us in the best way, haven't been as supportive as they should have been. And why don't we provide each other with that support where we haven't had it? There's lots of things to it, but those are a couple of things.
Love it.
Yeah, I think that parenting thing, like my mum's great. Going on holiday with her actually on Monday for about 10 days, and my sister. But I think we all kind of have similar kind of things going on there in the background a little bit. And I think, Charles, like you said there, like having a decent male role model that is on your level, I think is quite an understated fact, I think. Yeah, that's an interesting one, that.
So it kind of leads me to the next question. Why do we think, and this is for any of you that would like to answer it, why do you think vulnerability feels risky sometimes in professional spaces? Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
So I guess for me, in the sort of position that we're in, where we're still as kind of leader, senior leader, whatever you want to call it, there's often that fear of being perceived as not being capable of being in the position you're in when you're vulnerable. Quite often, I'm the most senior member of the team, or up there with the most senior members. And personally, I found it difficult at first to be vulnerable with junior colleagues. And when I started being vulnerable, I very quickly acknowledged the importance of it. As a leader or a senior leader, we have a responsibility to set the right example. And if we are pretending everything is fine all the time, even when it's not, and it's clearly not, the example that we are setting to junior colleagues is not the right example. That's going to encourage them to do the same. So although it is difficult to open up and be vulnerable with people who are junior colleagues, at the end of the day, they are people. We're all people, and we need to set the right example for everyone else within the team there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's senior leaders, sometimes it reminds me a lot of parenting in that, not that my team is children, so please nobody take that out of this, but I can remember very distinct times as a parent where I realized my child was modeling my behavior, and I've seen it in my teams too. When you're like, oh my gosh, they're modeling what I'm showing them. So I think sometimes when we show that vulnerability, we're giving.
Funny, Heather. Don't know if that's intentional or not. So it's really difficult. This has always been difficult. I feel like I've been in more situations than I can remember where I want to speak to someone, and I know that either the response is going to be met with toxic masculinity of, oh, man up, or get over it, or just get on with it, or it's going to be nodded at, talked about as in, oh, I'm sorry that you're feeling like that way. By the way, where is this?
Yes.
Where is your report? Where is this? Like it's either going to be acknowledged in the way that, yes, as like, okay, thanks for letting us know, but let's go back to talking about work. Let's not look at it from a sport perspective, or it's met with a really toxic, just get over yourself. Why would we care about that? And that's like I'm only in my mid-30s. Like I wouldn't have spoken about what I speak about now 10 years ago. Possibly not even 5 years ago, in some cases, realistically. I remember having a cry in front of a manager, and he said, "Don't cry. We'll talk about this later," and then walked out. It's just, that's... Yeah, I'm not... It's difficult. It's just difficult. That's what I was saying. John wants to talk now, so let John talk.
Yeah, but can you just say that's literally
Sorry, yeah.
horrible? And I'm really sorry that you had that experience, because we as managers and leaders, we need to do better. That's horrible. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so the leaders part, I think is really difficult, isn't it? Like I've recently become a manager of a couple of people, and one of those I kind of realised that I needed to be probably more vulnerable than I was being, and I hadn't really, not that I'd slotted myself into like this like non-communicative manager. I don't mean it like that. I was definitely caring. I am caring. I'm a caring person, but I felt like I didn't go the step that I needed to go, and then I did, and then things worked out for the better for him. So yeah, I can't obviously go into too much detail, but it was quite interesting that. I also the other thing I find interesting is the dynamic between having a male and a female manager. I don't know if you guys feel that at all, but I haven't had a manager that's a lady for quite a long time, and yeah, I have kind of mixed reports on male managers. Currently, amazing, if he's listening or if he's watching, and very, very supportive, and yeah, that doesn't just stop at his level. Actually, that goes up to kind of more senior levels, which is really, really nice. But yeah, I know Heather, you're asking the questions, but I just wondered if people feel that difference between a male and a female manager, or not really.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Obviously wonder that too, Charles, if you have that, because there's not a lot of us, female managers, but I think I told you guys when you did the panel, I wanted to know what we could do better. So yeah, Charles, go ahead.
I feel a lot more safe and secure speaking to women than I do with men generally. Maybe because of my upbringing, because my mum was always someone who I'd have really long chats with would talk about anything and everything. And with my dad, I couldn't speak to him. So maybe it's from that, or maybe it's from other things that I've experienced through my life. But yeah, women are more of a safe space to me than men are, just generally.
Really go.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I'm going to get slightly further back. I didn't have a male teacher until I was 12 years old. Every single teacher in my upbringing, like from educational system, was a female, and I did not connect in the way that there wasn't a male role model that wasn't in my family that I saw, and that was a very weird thing to look back on. Ironically, I've had two very good managers, one's a man, one's a woman. Yes, I do actually find it easier to talk to women, but from a man who wanted to talk to a man about man things sometimes, and like we're at parenthood, like it's okay talking to women about being a mum or whatever, but the struggles of being a dad sometimes, which is you're going to get from a male perspective, the feelings of being that side of things. So I agree actually that like I've had probably better support in general from women in my career. But I think the biggest thing to note there, and yes, actually we do need more women in management in general, but male managers need to step up and learn and be more, if you are looking after people, that should be part of your skill set, or at least try to be, that you're going to deal with people who are struggling in a way that it isn't easy to speak up with. But yeah, sorry, too much.
Really good though. It's really good. So, Jon, this kind of goes back to earlier what you were talking about. Do you think conferences and community events, how do they help combat that isolation that we might feel in tech?
So I think I have kind of mixed views on that, and I think that's maybe more to do with ADHD than actual kind of like anxiety. But like for example, at the East of England Power Platform conference, after we did our mental health session, there's a couple of bits there that kind of like came up to me that I was like struggling with a little bit, and I just had to go basically, and I felt safe in the fact that I could go, which is a lot down to Duncan and the rest of the team really, because that was it felt the safest place for me to have that conversation, but also I knew that even though I felt bad for leaving when I did, I knew that it was okay to do that, and you know, no judgment and all that kind of thing. When it comes to bigger conferences, and if I'm speaking at something bigger, it's not that I get nervous or anxious about presenting, but I quite often have like this kind of out of body experience where I don't really remember what I just talked about. I didn't feel like that at East of England. I remember what I said on the mental health panel, and I remember what I said when we were talking, Heather, about ADHD and Copilot. But there are other times where I've like, where did I go for that 35 minutes that I was just talking? Yeah. And then when we met that first time in London, you remember when people were coming up to you and asking you loads of questions, and I could see that you were kind of not struggling, was maybe not the right word, but you needed some space, you needed a bit of distance between yourself and other people in that moment. And I kind of came up to you and I was like, right, let's basically take you out of that situation, because I don't think when you are in that part, when you're feeling like that, you don't actually know how to say, hold on a second,
give me some space,
because you're so involved in it, you actually don't really realize that you need that space, and it takes somebody else to kind of look after you and help you, which is hopefully what I did that day. And I think that goes on to another thing. I think, the whole accountability stuff, like Heather, we talk about it regularly about different things.
Yes.
That whole accountability partner is a big deal to me. And is someone who truly kind of understands how my brain ticks and knows how to communicate in ways that sometimes other people don't. And I really appreciate that, Heather. Yeah.
Go ahead, Charles.
Just to touch on the point about you, John, where you were saying that you wanted to leave the conference and you felt safe to do so. So from my perspective, I'm quite an introverted person. So when I'm in a social setting with lots of people who I don't know, then it tends to drain my social battery very quickly. And at a lot of conferences, after the conference, people will go and be social. And I feel like I should be doing the same kind of thing, but a lot of the time I just don't have the energy and I know it won't be good for me. So I decline, and I feel guilty about declining it. With East of England, because we had the mental health panel, I felt like I could decline it and I felt better about it. So I think that's something that conference organisers can do, is just make people feel a bit better about whatever way they're going to be. And there can be social things, but there can also be things where you don't need to be social. I felt like it was more welcoming at East of England than it is at a traditional conference.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I did too. Go ahead, Duncan.
Thank you. Kind words. I feel like I've got to be the East of England representative now. Thank you for your kind words about it and the conference in general. I have been on the podcast previously, and I spoke about having a very toxic message given to me from an ex-partner about meeting pretty much all of you, and the fact of how most of us meet is online before we meet at a conference or a talk. A lot of us engage with each other's content or talk to each other or however it goes. And the comment was made about you being imaginary friends, because you're not real because you're on the other side of the country or whatever. Going to events like this gives me a chance to have proper friendships, which I've struggled with since I was a child. Cried on the day.
Right.
I lost my best friend 2 years ago. He died. And forming proper friendships after that has been difficult. It was difficult before that, and then after it. But going to events like this and talking to people like in this space has genuinely helped in so many ways. Like forming proper relationships, having people that are like-minded that I can talk to about my day job, about mental health, about everything else. As well as now having someone very supportive in my life who's currently going her lunch. And without events like this, and I'm proud of how East of England went. I don't think necessarily every event is tailored to everyone at the moment. I feel like a lot of events that we go to as a collective peoples go to it, and it's very corporate, or it's very it is corporate. It's capitalistic, organised. There isn't spaces for people necessarily like us, in the way that we're not accommodated for in any particularly big way. The one thing I do regret, there's two things I regret from East of England Power Platform Summit. First one is we didn't have a proper quiet space for people to go. Reception area was kind of a quiet place that some people skulked off to. After the mental health, me and Emily actually ran off into Norwich for a little bit because I needed some space. And the fact that I scheduled Charles to talk straight away again after the mental health talk, which I'm still sorry for, Charles. I know you said you're okay doing it, but I still feel like I was full on, and then you went straight into another talk. And I wasn't even there to support you because I was mentally checked out myself.
It's all good.
So, yeah.
I was happy.
So I love what you just shared, Duncan and Charles, about that specific conference. And I will say, I get very frustrated when people don't think our relationships are real because they've taken place online. And for those that don't know, like, I met my husband online and we lived on different continents for 8 years, and I promise you we have a very, very real relationship. You know what I mean? And I was actually telling somebody the other day, we actually got to know each other better by meeting online, because when you know somebody online, all you can do is talk to each other. You have no other distractions. You can think the naughty thoughts if you want, but it's true. You have nothing to distract you from building the actual core real relationship, because all you can do is talk, right? And so, Duncan, those relationships always are and always will be valid. And yes, it's wonderful when we can meet in person for the first time. John, I will turn it over.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm actually like, for the person who said that to you, that kind of like offends me to my core. Like, me and Duncan have met. I think me and Duncan have only met twice in person. East of England
and South Coast Summit.
And South Coast Summit. That's it. And I would class Duncan as a very good friend and someone who I could talk to about most things. Also, another FU to the person who said that. On my finger I have my wedding ring, and on my wedding ring it says perfectly matched, because I met Katie on Match.com, and we've been married for over 10 years. So yeah, up yours, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Me and John have known each other for what, probably 4, maybe 5 years, and we've been at lots of different companies together, different events together online and so on. But yeah, the first time we met in person was about a month ago. And
It's
John's
amazing.
one of the first people I call when I'm really, really, really struggling at work, or struggling in the run up to a big conference or something along those lines. MVP Summit, for example, I called John beforehand. I was like, look, I feel a bit weird about this. I feel a bit out of place. And we really dived into how I was feeling and had a proper chat about it. And granted, the morning of flying over as well, there was a bit of panic because Virgin Atlantic are rubbish. We won't go too deep into that. But me and John had a good chat at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, which is kind of going over and above work colleagues. Like, it wasn't a work thing at all. It was a friendship thing, and it was a support thing. And John really, really assured me on the way down, look, it will be fine. It was, by the way. We made it to MVP Summit. It was brilliant. But yeah, for about 2 hours, it was sheer panic around, am I going to make this flight? And that's not fake friendship. That's genuine support.
Well, thanks for saying that. And also, I think also to say someone's fine is not everyone else's fine, and vice versa. That's the other thing. So you know, I understand what you were going through, Stuart, because I get the whole logistics part of things, and I struggle with that myself. But I could, even though it might have been something that might not have bothered me as much as it bothered you, I was still able to have that communication or conversation without any judgment, and I just went into logical mode for you, and I was like, right, okay, well, these are the facts. This is where we're going. This is where you're going. This is how long it's going to take from here and here. And yeah, that's what I think you needed at that moment in time. Yeah,
it was exactly what I needed. Yeah, kind of red personality. I needed 5 bullet points to tell me why everything was okay. And you gave me 5 bullet points to tell me why everything was okay, and they all came true.
So
nice.
So, John, you gave a very passionate opinion about MVPs during our panel in Norwich, which I thought was important because I thought it led to an important discussion. But this is for everybody. What, or anybody, don't feel like you have to. Now, here's Heather qualifying all the questions again. What role do our MVPs, our speakers, our community leaders, what do they have, or we have, in modeling behavior, healthy behavior in the community?
I think there seems to be it's a very, very small group of people that seem to think MVPs are something special or something different or something better or something that you should aspire to, or a whole bunch of things. And I think for me it's a really difficult one, comparing myself with other speakers, comparing myself with other MVPs, comparing myself with just other people in general. You're kind of put on a pedestal, and it's quite a scary place to be when everyone's expecting you to know all of the answers to all of the questions. And I think the big thing that more MVPs need to be is honest and just outright say, like, I don't know, or I don't know all the things, or I'm not an expert in this thing that I'm talking about this time around. And just kind of show people that it's okay not to be perfect. And there seems to be this misconception that MVPs are these kind of superstar people who know everything about everything, and it's just not true. I think that honesty is something I'd like to see a little bit more of, where people just outright saying, look, I don't know everything about everything. I know a bit about this, and that's what I'm here to talk about today, but I'm not the expert that people seem to think I am.
But can I know that this is a good question, but on the topic of experts, Stuart, you are an expert in what you do. And I know that some days it doesn't feel like it, and some days it's easy to feel like an imposter, some people you aren't. But you are a community hero. You are an MVP. You have got a very good job at Capgemini. Like, you deserve to be where you are. And you may not be an expert in everything. You are an expert in you. You are the expert of Stuart Baxter. And that's important. That's important to be that. So please know that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nicely said that.
We, as people who have a voice and are using it, need to talk about being humans first. I do agree with some of the stuff that Stuart said, and especially what Jon said at the summit. We are just all humans. Like, Chris Huntingford's a human. I do idolise the man a bit. He's just a bloke. He's just a dude. And we are all that. No matter who we are, no matter what we've done, we are all just humans. And we all need to be a bit more human when it comes to being in this space and the people we deal with. Like, I openly talk about mental health and things online, and on my blogs, as well as my Power BI stuff. Like, I want to educate people in both. I want to be able to say, like, I don't like swearing on things like this. It's fucking shit some days.
Yeah.
Some days I don't want to exist, let alone get up and go for work and doing all the rest of my stuff. But I know there's people out there that I can talk to about stuff like that. And I know there's help, and I know there's support. And I know that, like, in 10 days' time, I'm going to another conference and seeing a load of my friends. That's going to be fun. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's an abrupt end. Apologies.
No, I love it. Also, I think I swear at least 3 to 4 times an episode, don't I, Jon? I just, like, we never feel bad about that. I can't help it. It always comes out at some point. And I tell myself at the beginning, I'm not going to swear, and then sure enough. But sometimes it's just right. Sometimes everything just is shit, and there's not a better word for it, is there, you know?
Also, Heather, just to say, you're already in this club, but everyone on the call, you're also in the No Sorry Club.
Yeah.
So you don't have to say sorry at all for anything. So yeah, just putting that out there. And I'm really bad at doing it. I do it quite often, and Heather will call me out on it, and she'll be like, "Hold on a second, you said that we're in the No Sorry Club. Why did you say sorry?" So yeah.
Yeah, and I know
if I stand on your foot next time I see you, I'm not saying sorry.
That's right. Absolutely.
Good. Charles, sorry.
Charles,
yeah.
I was just going to bring it back on topic a little bit with something that's been on my mind recently to do with speakers, and not necessarily MVPs, but anyone who's contributing some kind of content. And it was that on one of the podcasts, they talked about the YouTube video or YouTube videos that my friend Josh and I do. And they said that one of the things that they loved about it was that we would talk about or demo things that have gone wrong in our videos. And they praised us for it. And since then, I've been making sure that we include more and more of that kind of thing to show people, like, this went wrong, we made a mistake, and this is how we address that problem. And also trying to talk about it when I'm doing my talks as well. And I guess this is a call for me to everyone else who's doing talks, that if something goes wrong as you're preparing for the talk or when you're doing a demo in the talk, I think it's a really good thing. It's a really good way for people to learn from it. And if we can embrace that a bit more, it will help people to not feel so much of that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. You know, I blagged my way into my Power Platform job thanks to Shane Young and a lot of coffee and just like watching his videos. And I always said what I liked about him is because he put his mistakes in there, right? And he left them in the videos. I believed I could do what he was doing. Whereas when I see something that's absolutely perfect, and that I won't name any names, but sometimes people put absolutely perfect videos with no flaws, then I start getting intimidated. Like maybe I can't do this. Charles, I agree. You guys have that same quality where you do it, and I'm like, I can do this because I'm going to run into bumps, but now I know how to get over it. I think it would just be amazing in our community. I think that's a good shout. And it leads me to the next question, which is greatly appreciated, because Charles set us up with one, saying like, hey, when we're out there speaking or creating content, let's show that we're human and we make mistakes during this sometimes, and what we do to overcome that. For for any of you, what's one thing you wish more men felt more comfortable talking about? So what do you wish men would talk about more?
I think mistakes is the big one for me. I remember seeing a session, the very first Scottish Power Platform user group, kind of almost 3 years ago now, from a guy called Paddy Byrne. He works for Kerf Digital, really fantastic guy, really experienced. And he took a kind of similar stance to Charles and Josh, where he did live demos. And during those live demos, there was a little bit of sweariness going on as well, which was quite funny. But he was very raw and very honest, and he was like, yeah, that's not meant to happen. But sometimes it does happen, and when it does, you do this instead. You do that instead. And that was really valuable, because just a couple of days later, I tried to implement a similar solution, ran into the same problem that happened in his demo. They told us how to get yourself out of that mess. And it's great to see the kind of happy path, I suppose. But there's a lot more value for me in seeing the unhappy path. What happens when it goes drastically wrong, when you hit throttle in, when it just doesn't want to work for no reason other than it doesn't want to work. And I think it's important that people start being honest that things happen, and sometimes we are all just figuring it out as we go along.
Absolutely.
And also those times when especially when you're presenting and something goes wrong, I think you get a bit more of a conversation going with the audience as well, because the audience will kind of pick up on that, like Charles's comment on his YouTube channel. And I know exactly which one you were talking about, Charles, because I watched that the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I hope he didn't edit it." Yes, and it's happened to me a couple of times, and you just get a conversation going with the people in the audience, and I think I love that. That's great.
Kind of like John, when you and Mike first started Sprint Zero, you always had the uncomfortable corner, right? And we kept that because I think it's such an important part of Sprint Zero. But it's that moment for to take somebody that we may see, that we may have put on that pedestal, and have them share about, like, yeah, it happens to me too. I get in these situations where I don't feel, myself. I don't feel comfortable with what's going on, and I think it's important for people to see that.
And it's okay to feel that as well. Like my daughter this morning, she went back to school after half term this morning, and sometimes she struggles with like how she communicates how she's feeling, because she gets very overwhelmed at times. I've got no idea where she gets that from.
Mystery.
And I was in the kitchen, and she just came down to me, and she just came into the kitchen. She said, "Daddy, I'm feeling really nervous today." And like that's a big deal for her to label an emotion like that. And I said, "Okay, well, what are you feeling nervous about?" And she goes, "First day back at school." I mean, she absolutely loves school. When it's the summer holidays, she can't wait to get back because it's just too long for her. And we talked about it, and I said, it's okay to feel how you feel, and not to beat yourself up about it. Try not to get frustrated with it, because otherwise that pushes that feeling back, and then you'll experience it again, and your body doesn't really know what to do again. So you just got to kind of let it play itself out and know that there's support here. And she was like, "Oh, okay." It was a really good moment, because she doesn't often say exactly how she feels. So yeah, that's nice.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Um, so, because our whole episode is really an uncomfortable quarter, because we're all being very vulnerable, um, I'd like to ask a different question. I really would like everybody to answer this one, and we'll close with this. Is there's a lot of people that are going to be listening that will never know listen to this, and they're all going to take away different things from this episode. And so, if somebody's listening right now and they're struggling silently, what would you want them to hear?
I guess I'll go first. Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit, but everyone else seems to be struggling a little bit as well. So I guess for me, I think the takeaway would be that it's okay to be struggling. It's okay to not quite know how to move forward just yet, and it's okay to ask for help from people who can help you figure out how to move forward in the best possible way.
Yeah, I think also to say to someone, you're not on your own. You're not isolated. I think that's because we can sometimes feel lonely, even though we're around people all the time, or we're social, or we're doing things like this. And loneliness is a bit of a weird one, I think. And you can feel like that, even though it looks like from the outset that, well, how can you be lonely? So, yeah, I think to feel that you're not on your own is the first thing that I'd like to make sure that people know, and not to feel ashamed in any way in asking for help, or just reaching out, speaking to someone. But I think it's also on us as well to and I say collectively us, to spot those things. I think we're all quite good at that. Like I can kind of pick up from a message someone sends me, I can kind of tell whether they're okay or not, and I won't just leave it. If I think that they're not okay, I will ask and we'll try and help them a little bit, or speak to them, or and communicate on their terms. That's the other thing. Like sometimes I find it really hard to kind of use my words to explain how I'm feeling to someone. So I'll quite often, like even with my wife, get on WhatsApp and can explain to her in a text message a lot better than I can explaining in vocalizing how I'm feeling. So it's all about that method of communication, and making sure that method of communication is right for the person who needs the help.
Awesome, thank you.
You want me to go first, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
I've been pondering on it, and it's quite a difficult one, and it's not something that applies universally to everyone. So different things will work for different people. If I think about it from my perspective, then one thing is to speak up if it's possible. So I know, Duncan, you had that awful experience with work, but if there is someone at work who you can talk to, then that's a great thing. That's a great start to it. Obviously, people in your personal life, if you can open up to them, that's amazing. But then there are lots of people who don't have anyone who they can talk to. Getting involved in the Power Platform community, I think, has been an amazing thing for all of us. And so it is something that I would recommend to other people if they're feeling like they don't have that community spirit, they don't have people around to talk to, not necessarily in work, but even generally, then getting more involved in the community can help with that. Or joining clubs for things that they're interested in. When it comes to loneliness and things like that, that's a way to help. But then I'm also thinking, like, with all of these ideas, that there will be people who just feel like they can't act, they can't do anything about it, and there needs to be something for them, but I don't necessarily have the answer for that. And part of me is going, oh, well, just say, reach out to me, but then I don't have the time to answer everyone, so I can't say that. But there needs to be something for people. I don't have the answer for it, though.
So
And I think that's just to say, I think that's very transparent to say what you just said, Charles, because I think that's the other thing. People might take on things when they don't have the time, and I think that's very commendable to say what you just said.
yeah, I double down on that point. I have I'm going to say a toxic trait. I like to problem solve everything. I want to fix every problem I've ever seen. And I shouldn't, because some of them aren't mine and people don't want me to do it for them, and some of them aren't solvable, and sometimes I should take the more stoic route of stop worrying about things you can't affect. Things that I feel like I can affect is helping signpost people to where they can get help, though, and I think that's important. I actively done a blog recently about loneliness and the trap of loneliness, and how you can be in a room full of people, you can talk to colleagues online all day, every day, but when that stops and you're at home with yourself, everything falls apart sometimes. And like I said, I jokingly said, like, start a book club, start a D&D session, start something. It doesn't have to be Power Platform, it doesn't have to be tech. For those who are suffering silently, there are places you can go to talk to people anonymously. There are Reddit forums, there are sites like I've posted about recently, and I will probably post in the comment section of this because I can't quite remember. It's a poetry site or a letter site where people write letters anonymously to people to give them a reason to stay. As well as, it's great charities locally, like Mind is great, there is Samaritans, internationally there are so many, like there are always people to reach out to. And like I said when we were in our session, like if only one person comes away from here feeling like they can talk a bit more, or they've got people that they are going to ask to talk and actually share how they're feeling, like that's the win, right? Yeah, get an emo. I cried at the session, cried twice today. You're welcome.
Right. I always say crying is just because you care. You know, you're just emotional about it. If you didn't give a shit, if you're being fake, you wouldn't cry, right? This is our passion. This is what we care about. We'll also drop a link in the comments to the andysmanclub.co.uk, specifically for men, and it's all over. If we have one in South Devon, you probably have one near you. That's what I always say, right? So it's all over the country, and so you know, the more resources we put out there, the more likely somebody is to find something that works for them. Because, like Charles said, not one size fits all. Um, I am so grateful to you guys for being here today and for sharing again with us. Um, Such important views on such an important topic, and I am also emotional, so we're gonna squish that down just because I care about you guys so much, and I think what you've done today has been so important. Yes, Duncan.
So I've got a lot of thank yous, but I'll do it quickly. Thank you, Amy, for actually adjudicating the
Yes,
first one. She's amazing. She also said
yes,
about Andy's
big
Man
thanks.
Club. She really did do very well by us in that first one. Thank you to all of you for being part of it. You were all there. You were either on the panel or Heather giving it, like, commenting on the thing and hosting us now. And to event organisers and people in our space, like, we still want to give this talk other places. We still want to go to different events and have this conversation so that more people feel comfortable talking about their mental health in our workspace, in our space. So if you want that, contact us. Look, I did a
And
bit of
don't be
salesy
and
work
don't,
as well.
yeah, and don't be scared about it either. I think maybe that could be an element to it, that maybe it doesn't kind of fit in exactly. Yeah,
Every person that turns up to see the event is a human. It will fit in, and there are
yeah,
people
right,
that will want this session and not be able to tell you that they want this session. And I think that's
Yes,
important
yeah,
to know.
yes,
I really
yes.
do.
awesome. And with that, thank you everybody for coming, and for our very special episode of Sprint Zero. If you want any additional information, feel free to leave it in the comments, and myself or one of the panelists or John will all be happy to get back in touch with you. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye
Thank
bye,
you all.
bye.